I have a 2004 Forest River Cardinal travel trailer here, and the slide is not going out. And if I look at it, the switch, you'll see that hydraulic pump kicks in. When I click on out, nothing happens. Now, if you listen really closely, I can hear the relay on the outside of the camper on the actual switch. And that switch, let me throw something underneath here, is located on this camper on the front side all the way up underneath. So we're going to take a look at that real quick. It's all the way up here. So if you can see that there, this is the pump, the hydraulic pump that controls the slide in and out. It doesn't have motors. It has this one motor. It drives a hydraulic pump that runs the slide in and out. And if there's a switch right here I can click on. You see it goes, it kicks in that way, but that way doesn't kick in. So it's most likely that relay there is bad. The relay's up on top here. It's a little bit daunting to get to, but if you just disconnect, we're going to disconnect these hydraulic hoses here. We'll pull this down, disconnect the power cables, the main power coming in. The main power comes from your battery. It comes into, this would be the middle terminal here is your main power. And then the ground comes from also on the front of that switch, but then over to ground on the actual pump unit itself. And then it just switches power to either to this power to this terminal to give the pump the hydraulic fluid to go in or out, or it goes to this one right here, which is in or out. So we're gonna pull this out and take a look at it. So I will note that the first time this happened to us, and it basically had us stranded at a campsite, and we need to get off it by I think noon. And what I did, and this might be helpful for anybody that happens to you, is I ran a jumper cable from my vehicle. You could probably do it from your battery too, but I think I did it from my vehicle at the time, to this terminal right here. So battery would have worked. I just, for some reason, was using my truck. I think I was trying to get more voltage to it. At one point, this initially started failing, and I hooked up the power from the AC, the power from the battery, and also had a truck hooked up to it. And it would sometimes intermittently work. But when I put a battery jumper cable right here, ground here, and jumper here, it pulled the slide back in. So what I've just done, I'm not going to show it to you because I need two hands to do it, is I ran from ground to this terminal, and when I flipped the switch, it had 12 volts on it. I flip it the other way, it has no voltage on it, which is what it's supposed to do. And I went to this terminal back here, did the same thing, flipped the switch in the opposite direction, it had no voltage on it. Flipped it back the other direction, it had no voltage on it. But it did click. So the relay internally was working, but not making a connection. So there's something bad with that connection inside this. So what we're gonna do today is pull this out, and then I'll talk a little bit about this particular pump as well. To get this off, I'm first gonna remove this ground terminal. This comes directly from the battery. I'm gonna remove this one. It's warm, because obviously I've been drawing power through it. Let's pull off this, don't want to lose that lock washer there. Now I want tape. Actually, let's do this. So I'm going to remove the also power off from this one up top, which is also still warm from drawing current. All right, that's off. And so the other two things I need to remove to get this out of here is going to have to be, obviously, I've already got the switch pulled out here. But these two screws is really the only thing holding this base in place. And then these two hydraulic tubes. I'm just going to hang them over the top of that bar right there. It'll drip just a little bit, but I won't lose much. And these are, when you just run the slide in and out, it's self-purging. So it'll purge the air out of it once I have it fixed. So I'm going to go ahead and get that terminal off. I'm going to go ahead and pull these two hoses off. I would recommend 2 wrenches. One that can hold, that's too big. One that can hold, that's too small. There you go. That in place while we wrench on. That one's too small, so let me get a different size on the other one. Then we'll break this free. We'll unscrew this, hang it up, disconnect these two, and we'll pull this out. Don't forget to tell you, this one is a 7/16, the smaller one to hold your hose in place. And this one is a 9/16. So standard sizes. Then these are, I'm not sure, but that one's already loose. We'll figure that out. Also take note that where these hoses are, if you can mark them one way, this one's on the forward side. You can reverse those. It'll just have reverse operations. You also just reverse the 2 wires on the relay to fix that if you wanted to. And you'll see that when I first loosened this up, it did squirt out a little hydraulic fluid. So you're going to lose some hydraulic fluid and it's going to leak and make a mess. So have a rag ready for you. Okay, so there it is. As you can see, it's not that difficult to pull out. It looks a little daunting, but I'm going to carry it over to the back end of my truck to show you and start working on this. So I've got on the back of my truck, and this is the part that is bad. The relay's gone bad. Not sure where. It sounds like it's making a connection internally, but there's no power getting to this terminal when you switch it. And what I found, one time I want to mention this. This used to leak really bad. I'm hoping it's not leaking. No, it's not leaking. And this reservoir, this pump, from what I've heard on forums, was only, Lippert components was only used 1 year. Same looking pump, just the reservoir looks a little bit different. This one was leaking, and I couldn't get to stop leaking. I tried replacing the O-ring. Very difficult to find an O-ring that would fit. But it still leaked a little bit. And what I found is that it said that because of the weight of the hydraulic fluid in here, this tends to leak. And what they'll recommend is to replace that O-ring or use the old O-ring you had and clean it up really well. What I did was I cleaned it, used carb cleaner, got it, used some alcohol, got it nice and dry. I then roughed up the inside edges of here so that the gasket sealer that I used, something like this, maximum oil resistant Permatex gasket sealer, and I just put a really thick deep bead around the edges. I waited, I think 48 hours just so it was nice and dry. I filled it up and it wasn't leaking. This here is from when I just opened this up. So I'll post a new pump that I did find on Amazon. On the site, Lippert site, it was like $1,400, maybe $1,300. And then on Amazon, it was like $950, I think, if I recall. So let's pull this off. I'm basically gonna just remove these 2 bolts. I've seen them where they're actually a pot like a rivet, and you just gotta basically grind off the rivet or grind it down, take it off. So, and it's just held in place by this clamp. So we'll take that off, which will give us that. We'll replace this, put it all back together. As you can see, I'm still going to take this piece, this strap off from this, and that is because I can't get to the bolt on the underside of it. So there, it's off right there, and I couldn't get to this bolt right here, so we're gonna disconnect that now. All right, so I have a brand new relay, and we're just gonna install that in backwards order of what this one is. And I'll put that link, if you want it, into the description. So I'm just going to reverse order, put this back together. There you go. I just put this back on. I put the strap underneath that bar. You can see right there. And I'm not going to put this on yet because I need to put the negative terminal here, and the positive terminal is going to go up top in the camper. And also, I'm not going to test it before I put it in. I probably could hook a positive 12 volts here, negative here, but I still need a switch to hook up to here, so it's almost just as much work slash less work to install it. All right, because when I run this pump, it's going to squirt, so it's got to be hooked up anyways into the camper, because it wasn't very hard to take out. It's just awkward, and it was messy because the fluid dripped out. So we're going to put this back in, we're going to test it out and show you how it's done. So the unit is back in place. The only thing I need to do is put this switch back in, but I'm just going to leave it out for now, and then I'll come back, and you got to fish it through. It's kind of tricky. You got to come up and push them on from the back side. So because there's no headroom in here, it's challenging. So everything's hooked up. Got my hoses hooked up. Oh, what I don't have hooked up, good thing I'm talking to you all, is caught on a lug. And what you're going to see, I'm going to have to pull these back off because I didn't account for routing of this harness. So I'm just going to real quick disconnect these before I apply any pressure to it, because then it'll squirt everywhere again, and then we'll come back. All right, let's take a look at it this way. Okay, we've got, that was it. Okay, so let's take a look at one more thing. Crawl out underneath here. All right, let's just make sure we got our either hydraulic hoses in the right position or this wire going to the relay. So let's go out. It's working. Okay, there it goes out. I'm not going to go too far because I got my cover on here. And in works. So if I run that all the way out and all the way back in, it's going to be able to purge any excess air in the lines of this camper. And our reservoir's already got plenty of fluid in it, and it's sealed up. And that's it. So save yourself a bunch of money and just replace that ourselves. That took a total of 45 minutes to pull that out, replace that switch relay, and to put it back in, all while filming. So I just got a couple things to wrap up, put my tools away, put that switch, hook that switch back up properly, and then I'll just run a full out and in test on the camper. Well, I went back and put the switch in. So everything's all done. It's tidied up and it's ready to go camping again. I'm going to say real quick that I did put this piece of foam support underneath this canister. That way there wouldn't be so much weight on the front end of this canister and cause any leaks back here. So that just is a piece of foam there. It's kind of tight, and I stuck that in there for support.